间的，然后台上应该是等一下要排7个人，对，然后整个，然后Jeff， 接下来是 Jeff， 这也要坐在那里嘛，然后就让选给他填好了，让他可以直接上台。Jeff， 然后那 Peter 就坐这旁边，让 Peter 就关在这里，然后他们等一下要对上。那台下帮国际党做一下，台下帮国际党做品牌吗？应该不用。那要帮他。
在这里就直播好设定完成了，也很亮 stream 哈，那个灯啊。
到墙哎。哎，老师我们来了。不好意思，思怡这边，思怡，老师在上面。不好意思，我跟你说，流程会稍微改一下。对，因为今天早上下午就有这个new idea， 所以就是等一下他们会一开始就在台上的嘛。
等一下给他们看的网址。
他们就会在台上，在台上好。然后像我是希望可以加。
然后 YouTube 要直播是看这里。
OK， 就是先让Ralph支持。
有没有？
应该是我们请他们上来之后会先介绍他们是谁。对。那我们是以校长先介绍，对，然后介绍会宾跟他们的witness，对，然后我们
在这里有一个这个，对。
然后接下来是下一段
进行直播。
然后再去，
你看你们等一下要
这里有一个传统版直播，传统版直播。现在直播中了吗？现在开始。
然后他那个 contract 啊，虽然说Ralph他那边
这样子吧，我现在是正常。
因为他就是要修改。
有过跟我们的2位就是要那个交换。
其他都有跟他们联系，所以不会认主，然后就是会 pretend 签一下，然后交换表签，然后拍照，然后指证，然后结束之后可以签，那你就在那里帮我先 Q 一下。
这里然后上来 Q， 然后下来还有左边，然后我就站在那里。我们是帮你拿外套。
这可能你要帮我接。
要像我们现在轮下看，像我们他们这样好。
那个光上没有手。然后我们的司仪就会请你等你请到他们下来，我们就会接受。然后这中间也是讲句的卡的意思，他们下台的意思。好，谢谢。
然后你们就可能一个在那边是在投，对啊。因为我们要有一个自己就跟到我那个，你要自己就一个在这边。对，还有人有空就然后接着能做什么？像建文，你想，等一下开始直播，开始我们的拍照的时候，对，像然后你基本上跟地铁直接站在一起。对。
哦，可能我在那一边。
你本来是要在那边盯麦克风，但是因为我们现在要在家，那你就是手上在家。姐姐应该会在这边吧？对啊，他说他也会在这边。
校长拿的脚架。
有。
一般脚架可以架上。
就是有额外，就是
可是我们现在没有，不然就是得要看要怎么样。
不然是要拿
不然要拿一个，要不然看你是要拿一个书。
加上有个麦克风。
你是要去我们办公室
翻下一版给我看一下，让你
哎，校长也有说要从哪里拍吗？正中间嘛，会正中间会有一堆老板，因为
你这个角度不是最好的。
这角度其实都还是会被人打枪。就是那一天来帮这边塞东西的时候，其实如果我们只有一点点，就像这的话，没有拿那么高，没有办法这样拍下去。其实那样都会有点被挡到，何况是我们那一场。
反正你也是前面一点都会给你。
就是有点协助的。
录影应该是录影。这个好像，可是我就不知道这有没有录影。印象中好像就是
他们应该是我觉得他们会自己拿钱，然后有点像。
他们用重新开这里，因为学校直播自己就帮人家来直播啊，就因为结束的时候跟你说什么结束？看这个，在这里点，然后斜线看，斜线看，那我可能会是
然后那么高的东西。
然后方便的话就是我们先给我，好，我等下转一下。
我先是放在上面，
那个在哪里？
直播和这个也是，到这里，然后 setting，
知道为什么？因为像我在这边，然后他从这边递给你送一张就
那个伺服器设到这里，设到这里用。
那你可能要在中间的，然后他帮你送给他，你送完之后递给校长，
就我就给他，
就可以关电源。好，第一个，刚刚这个目的是让员工看到，不要看得到，所以偷播他。所以你先让它关掉，他们就看不到。那接着换我们的这一台要把它关机，关机就是 UPS 100，UPS 100点进来，那你要做一个 setting， 要把伺服器这里第一个伺服器要把它 off 掉。off 没有用，还要最后把它好，就开始可以关电源，就可以拆了。好，你拆的时候一定要记住，这边东西要放到哪里？电脑的东西要放电脑。这些直播这台是这台最贵的是这一台，放它的盒子里面，其他的线材也不要都放在那里面。我会再来看。
因为你是协助他就好了，因为我不知道状况怎样。
好，留意一下就这样了哈。
或许他就放在那个桌子上也不动，那你可能
记得等一下用直播这里，记得
自
自己看这里。好，我就帮你放这样了。不会，看有什么问题再跟我讲。好，没问题。我要开始一个便条纸给你，
就是在中间写
等一下做这个就好。不然我留一点。这里结束这里，好，这里好 setting， 好，
大概在这个或
上次2个那个应该把它关掉，录音的就是这张不要乱丢来好了。好，没问题。这里面后置的注意，去把它做存档。这只是要记住先关这里哦。好。这里要点 end 这里有没有？点 end 1哈，主板折起来，先做这个步骤，不然对方还一直在看哦。好，看到我们在收工哦。好，先把对方的先关掉。好，再来关我们的。好，没问题。好的。
他们要从那边上来。对，所以都是
感谢你帮忙。他们的线材都不能不见哦，缺一不可。大概预计到几点？
本来是到10点半啊，但是这样签约可能会到12点。
好，没关系，我11点半过来。
好，先过了，还是先。
那这个就给你了。
OK。对，那你拿的时候。
对方说他那个
观看的网址知道吗？
有，之前有就是前他们发布出去。
后面有加一个斜线 live。
有。这个可以吗？
你人真好。这个是多的吗？
这个是
不需要的吗？
他不会来。
我要用。
他用，你要用。
我要架手机。
要球踢球什么的。这点上就是等到他们签约完之后，签完之后会跟来上东西。这1-2分钟我会去上部分。
EMOU signing ceremony between Technological University and National Kaohsiung University of Hospitality and Tourism will now begin.
默默的那一块让它往里面。
First, the presentations of the MOUs for signing. First, the presentation of the MOUs for signing.
因为有那个。哦。OK。
然后到时候他们是7个在做 panel discussion， 7个去打上面。
对。要做很多。老师他们到时候倒数还是3个后面，他们先数嘛，我试看看。
刚不是好多的图标？
你会转宣传吗？我想一下。哦，他会讲。好。那你就是练
中开始。
你说，那我们比说英文有时候可以来干嘛？
From the first beginning.
哦，蛮白。而且我们从切那个 next
这个就我，它就是
PH of the MOUs for signing. Then, the holding up of the MOUs for a folder. Finally, the exchange of patterns between President Lin and Assistant Google.
你要把位置打开吗？还是就打开？就跟着打开，就打开了，打开2次对，打开让它放，然后1个小时。这里是说对，他们把那个对，然后我们就是打手机。校长先送吧。对啊，因为我帮对方。
重点是他的起账是我拿的。
咪咪，你还有台词吗？没有。
是肯定是有
上次好像是。
他们是那个起账还是？
应该在那个那边沟通。
因为David 说，
而且可是你在那边如果他那个电拿起来告诉我，他 iPhone 10的充电系统我们6。
We would now like to invite the members of Eurocom to the stage for a group photo.
因为他是2个，所以其实真的也没法，因为有东西也没法拿上去。
这个角度的话是刚好包括是。
哎，Hello，签到了没？签了。不，往前坐，选那么多人。
这位置它是可以完整的包含跟最边边这个位置，因为等下是塞所以这里就。
但是他们讲话，你应该就是要注意的。那就是他直播时候是有本多。
这个印象中是
前面那个留言
不喜欢那个，如果可以的话，
我现在想一个方式让你架。可是我觉得这个没有看，对吗？我觉得这个没事，他光让给他看起来就还好吧，就是上去这样会有人会拿掉啊，位置有一点。
你把它拿下来。然后里面应该还有一厚一厚，你知道吗？就是它地有那种地板垫。为什么这位置感觉？
我这样好。
不要摔嘞！这样会摔吗？
理论上是不会了。
哎呦！聪明聪明的。
然后我们现在录前面都还在调了，那基本上应该会是定好这个位置。而这样变成是我没有办法做动作，因为它卡在这个位置，我没有办法这样放大做。
等一下。好，帮你从那个什么里，不然的话把这个拔下来给你，但也不行，因为它会这样起。
而且它是放在。
我有办法借一支吗？好，我等下拿上。谢谢。有啦，国际处他们有做一个那个。国际处他们有做。介绍来宾晚中那边。
是哦。
所以你就可以。
还是为了让王府追剧方便，国际处。还是为了王府追剧方便性，我懂。
因为你叫我闲点，我没事就休假一下。
Next, the exchange of the MOUs for signing. Then, the holding up of the MOUs for approval.
哎，现在有开冷气了啊！
The exchange of
有，真的假的？
President
现在有开冷气的状态。
晚上你上礼拜不是也在这体验这个热度？
那我跟你说，请尽量叫他们坐这边，因为这边比较凉。好，那边2排坐。
This concludes the signing ceremony. We look forward to greater collaboration between our two institutions in the days to come.
会不会？对。拍照吗？我会请那个公路车，我也会，一开始我也会先在外面。我忘记刚刚是请谁拿这个。明明。所以我要在哪里等？不是9点20开始，9点20是我们要事先去。阿贤，你看，他在赶，他还在弄他的。
是合照。
合照之后，对，要等他们全部都回到他们就下10
点开始。
然后这个我们要测。
学生，你知道学生？
全部都要测手，对，国旗，就是国旗，桌牌是他们的最佳，然后这个国旗跟这个飞，还有笔。
我为什么觉得冷气关掉了？我也觉得。对啊，瞬间很热。没事。
下去总务处一下，大哥可不可以过来帮我们看一下冷气？
阿红大哥，哎，你说。就是会来开门的那一位就很好。
会挡到吗？
因为我不知道，我的手机跟小红，我没有办法拿我的档，我到时候现场要再测一次。
可以，不然就找个出来的位置放。
哎，一婷，来你 hold 一下，我看一下这支够不够。 我吃过啊，还蛮清楚。我的视力。
刚刚佑姐说看得蛮清楚的。
对，可以。前面有没有高完场？
就是它的，像上面是5上去，
对，像那种在手套上面。
然后就那个主管就勉为其难，就换了另外一件，还是有当老师提的，也是超炫。
就是他说只是看起来就是跟工位器而已，很多暗数，会不会是你们反正好了，不要再讲了。不然就是不要一看就吃饭。一般第四。
一般第四。
你自己啊，不要抢我的声音。
他帮你删了，
真的吗？要帮我删了？
对啊，他是帮人家删。
那个一婷，麦克风都没有声音，有办法处理吗？见我试看看这一我的笔可不可以？
好。
没事没事，就是这样摆上去。然后但是有没有这个？真的、哦？
那天帮他拍照吗？你要看者无？以前安尼。
University of Applied Science, Professor of Hospitality Management and Experience Design, Center of and International Affairs, Charlie
然后东西这样架着也是可以。如果要这样的话，对，那像变成是我们过去做这个的话，也会有点
我那个是开玩笑，那个不会开玩笑。然后我跟我朋友比如说他吃饭的时候就讲到，这个可以先去找。
Next, the exchange of the MOU first signing. The exchange of gifts between President and Assistant We will now transfer the Euro members to the stage for a beautiful
Hello， Hello，
我们的身体现在会到明天，我还是要首先做一下查
我等一下去拍照，虽然一直在下雨，下的。
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The MOU signing ceremony is about to begin. Please prepare to take your seats and switch your phones to silent. Thank you. Good morning. distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the annual signing ceremony between Technological University Dublin and National Cultural University of Hospitality and Tourism. First, please welcome the delegates for the ceremony, Teal Dublin, Assistant Head of School Hospitality Management and Tourism, Ralph Rubach, NKUHG President, Earl Lin. Next, please welcome.
好，那拜托一下，因为等一下还要下去跟他们拍照，所以我们一次，等一下就是你们会叫我们上去，对不对？然后你叫到我们才上去，对不对？
对对对对，没错。
Master of ceremony, right? Right. Would you want to practice now?
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So, would you like to start it from the beginning?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The MOU signing ceremony is about to begin. Please prepare to take your seats and switch your phone to silent modes. Thank you. Good morning, distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the MOU signing ceremony between Technological University Dublin and National Cultural University of Hospitality and Tourism. First, please welcome the delegates for the signing of the MOUs. Teal Dublin, Assistant Head of School Hospitality Management and Tourism, Ralph Rubach. NKUHG President, Earl Lin. Next, please welcome the witnesses to the signing of the MOUs. Breda University of Applied Science, Professor of Hospitality Management and Experience Design, Sender Lab. NKUHG, Dean of International Affairs, Charlene Chen. The MOU signing ceremony between Technological University Dublin and National Cultural University of Hospitality and Tourism will now begin. First, the presentation of the MOUs for signing. Next, the exchange of the MOUs for signing. Then, the holding up of the MOUs for a photo. Finally,
before the signing, we would pose for a picture, and after the signing.
Because here is like, what I got here is like, first is the signing first, and then after the signing, holding up the MOUs for
So,
pictures.
would you please just make one more space, say, before we sign, we look at the camera and take the photo first. Normally it's like before and after.
Okay.
I love your voice. It's really incredible, nice.
First, so should you hold the MOU as well before?
We just sit here, right? Before we sign it, maybe we'll have the pen already, and we'll just look at the camera.
Okay, so first, the presentation of the MOUs for signing. So and then.
And how about normally when you witness, they were standing behind, and now you put them.
监测人在后面，然后一起拍个照嘛。
我们不是一起坐下来照相嘛，对不对？然后 the sign ceremony, right? 然后 have 2-person.
before signing.
Yes.通常都没有 witness signature standing behind. Like we are signing and then we're standing behind to witness the signing of the MOU.
We would like to invite the witnesses to stand behind.
Yes, yes.
So I will start from the MOU signing ceremony. The MOU signing ceremony between Technological University Dublin and National Cultural University of Hospitality and Tourism will now begin. First, the presentations of the MOUs for signing. We would like to invite for taking up pictures before the signing.
And you should make sure. She always say include instead of NKUST, right? So include, and instead of okay. That seems pretty good. Thank you.
Next, the exchange of
the logo we would like to hold. So afterwards, we need this to kind of photos and regular photos. Is that correct? You are excellent.
so encode. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll
We
do
would like to take a picture before the signing.
我希望不要下雨，刚刚一会儿下雨就好。
The exchange of the MOUs for signing. Okay. Then the holding of the MOUs.
你还好吧？哈，那个，小易哈，
那个电子看板 ，please fix it。
这个如果说，那可以
把例子
So we can do that because the signing ceremony is really by the senior and Charlie, so we can really do that.
下去拿2块，那个都要
好，谢谢你们都，谢谢你们大家。你们的冷气要开大一点，对他们欧洲人来讲，会热死。就当你这边会受伤。今天我还可以打这个吗 ？First， 可以。
那你跟他说看那句话，他秘密那句话里面再跟 David double check 一下，就是那个 witness 站在后面这样。OK， 好。对，就那边。那你等下任务是什么？拍照。所以等下8点你要收什么？8点你要收国旗吗？你说完，那我收国旗。国旗如果够快的话，就是最高。那个尾就是 paper 跟 MOU 跟。
Thank you all for paying attention to the signing ceremony. Now, this is the moment we've all been waiting for, the panel discussion of enhancing the global impact in hospitality education. Let's welcome our dearest president of INCU, Phil Lee, to the stage. Next, please help me to welcome our distinguished guest, Dr. Ralph Burbach from Dublin University of Technology. Mr. Anders Jostland from the University of Business Edge, Northern Denmark. Mr. Richard from the Sofion, France. Mr. Peter Russell from the University of Sunderland, Professor Sander Lap from Breda University of Applied Science, the Netherlands, and the Professor Geoff Marie from Breda University of Applied Science, the Netherlands. Before we start, let's welcome our President, Pierre Lin, to give us an opening remark. Thank you, President Lin. In the next section, we would love to invite our guests to briefly introduce themselves. Shall we start from Dr. Ralph Burbage?对，我想他们来了，这样子。
学他一下。
这样全部都是学校。我等下再去。他没念完。Proline. Thank you all for paying attention to the signing ceremony. Now, this is the moment we've all been waiting for, the panel discussion of enhancing the global impact in hospitality education. Let's welcome our dearest president of ENCU, Proline, to the stage. Next, please help me to welcome our distinguished guest, Dr. Ralph Burbage, from the Dublin University of Technology, Mr. Anders Jasteland from the University of Business Edge, Northern Denmark, Mr. Richard from Ecole de Sciences, France, Mr. Peter Russell from the University of Sunderland, Professor Sander Lap from Breda University of Applied Sciences, the Netherlands, and Professor Geoff Marie from Breda University of Applied Sciences, the Netherlands. Before we start, let's welcome our President, Proline, to give us an opening remark. Thank you, President Lin. In the next section, we would love to invite our guests to briefly introduce themselves. Shall we start from Dr. Ralph Burbage? Thank you for the fruitful discussion. It is very self-respect for the event. Thank you for the fruitful discussion. To express our respect for this event, please welcome President Lin to issue the certificate of appreciation and the gift. Thank you, President Lin. Now, please welcome everyone to move forward for photography. This is the end of the panel discussion. Thank you for attending this informative event. Let's give our guests a big applause. Thank you for the fruitful discussion. To embrace our Thank you for the fruitful discussion. To express our respect for the event, please welcome President Lin to issue the certificate of appreciation and the gift. Thank you, President Lin. Now, please welcome everyone to move forward for photography. This is the end of the panel discussion. Thank you for attending this informative event. Let's give our guests a big applause. Once again, thank you for your participation. Have a nice day. Thank you. Thank you all for paying attention to the signing ceremony. Now, this is the moment we've all been waiting for, a panel discussion of enhancing the global impact in hospitality education. Let's welcome our dearest president of NCU, Pearl Lane, to the stage. Next, please help me to welcome our distinguished guest, Dr. Ralph Burbage, from the Dublin University of Technology. Mr. Anders Josseland from the University of Co-Business Age, Northern Denmark. Mr. Richard from Aix-de-Safon, France. Mr. Peter Russell from the University of Sunderland. Professor Sander Lapp from Breda University of Applied Science, the Netherlands. And the Professor Geoff Marie from Breda University of Applied Sciences, the Netherlands. Before we start, let's welcome our President Pearl Lane to give us an opening remark. Thank you, President Lane. In the next session, we would love to invite our guests to briefly introduce themselves. Shall we start from Dr. Ralph Burbage? Thank you for the fruitful discussion. To express our respect for this event, please welcome President Lane to issue the certificate of appreciation and the gift. Thank you, President Lane. Now, please welcome everyone to move forward for photography. This is the end of panel discussion. Thank you all for attending this informative event. Let's give our guests a big applause. Once again, thank you for your participation. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The MOU signing ceremony between Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The MOU signing ceremony is about to begin. Please prepare to take your seats and switch your phones to silent mode. Thank you. Good morning, distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the MOU signing ceremony between Technological University Dublin, TU Dublin, and National Cultural University of Hospitality and Tourism, NCUT. First, please welcome the delegates for the signing of the MOU. TU Dublin, Assistant Head of School of Hospitality Management and Tourism, Rolf Burbach. NCUT President, Pearl Lin. Next, please welcome the witnesses to the signing of the MOUs. Breda University of Applied Science, Professor of Hospitality Management and Experience Design, Sandra Love. NCUT, Dean of the International Affairs, Shanning Chen. The MOU signing ceremony between Technological University Dublin and National Cultural University of Hospitality and Tourism will now begin. First, the presentation of the MOUs for signing. We would like to take a picture before the signing. We would like to invite the witnesses to standing behind. Next, the exchange of the MOUs for signing. Then, the holding up of the MOUs for a photo.
That's fine.
Finally,
that's fine. Yeah.
The exchange of gifts between President Lin and Assistant Head Burbach.
Yes. 22号就在那。22号。
我超在飞机啊，飞点我。
刚哦。
Please prepare to take your seats and switch your phones to silent. Thank you. Good morning, distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the MOU signing ceremony between Technological University Dublin, TU Dublin, and National Cultural University of Hospitality and Tourism, NCUT. First, please welcome the delegates for the signing of the MOU. TU Dublin, Assistant Head of School of Hospitality Management and Tourism, Rolf Burbach, NCUT President, Pearl Lin. Next, please welcome the witnesses of the signing of the MOU. Breda University of Applied Science, Professor of Hospitality Management and Experience Design, Sandra Love. and Cook, Dean of the International Affairs, Charlene Chen. The MOU signing ceremony between Technological University Dublin and National Cultural University of Hospitality and Tourism will now begin. First, the presentations of the MOUs for signing. We would like to take a picture before the signing. We would like to invite the witnesses to standing behind. Then, the exchange of the MOUs for signing. Then, the holding up of the MOUs for a photo. Finally, the exchange of gifts between President Flynn and Assistant Head Mubarak. This concludes the MOU signing ceremony. We look forward for greater collaboration between these institutions. We look forward to greater collaboration between our two institutions in the days to come.
那后面一点点啦，现在我才可以开始。我想要收，在台湾收集，我记得那时候我们是有10个问题的定义，就是问 HR 说你觉得 talent management 对你怎么样？ Thank you for paying attention to the signing ceremony. Now, this is the moment we've all been waiting for, the panel discussion of enhancing the global impact and education. Let's welcome our dearest president of ENCU, Caroline, to the stage.
Thank you.
Good morning.
I'm still in challenge myself.
You leave to take care, are you in the same seat? You went home for the weekend, yes?
Was this way you could,
It was, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The MOU signing ceremony is about to begin. Please prepare to take your seats and switch your phones to silent modes. Thank you. Good morning, distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the MOU signing ceremony between Technological University Dublin, TU Dublin, and National Kaohsiung University of Hospitality and Management, and KU. First, please welcome the delegates for the signing of the MOUs. TU Dublin, Assistant Head of School of Hospitality Management and Tourism, Ralph Hubbard. And KU President, Pearl Lin. Next, please welcome the witnesses to the signing of the MOUs. Breda University of Applied Science, Professor of Hospitality Management and Experience Design, Zender Love. And KU, Dean of the International Affairs, Charlene Chen. The MOU signing ceremony between Technological University Dublin and National Kaohsiung University of Hospitality and Tourism will now begin. First, the presentations of the MOUs for signing. We would like to take a picture before the signing.
Before and after.
We would like to invite the witnesses to standing behind. Next, the exchange of the MOUs for signing. Then, the holding up of the MOUs for a photo. MOUs for signing. Finally, the exchange of gifts between President Lim and Assistant Head Ruba.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. For the long-term relationship of two universities. 1, 2, 3. Hey,
This concludes the MOU signing ceremony. We look forward to greater collaboration between our two institutions in the days to come.
Thank you all for paying attention to the signing ceremony. Now, this is the moment we've all been waiting for, the panel discussion of enhancing the global impact in hospitality education. Let's welcome our dearest president of ENCU, Pauline, to the stage. Next, please help me to welcome our distinguished guest, Dr. Ralph Burbach from the Dublin University of Technology. Mr. Anders Jostland from the University of Business H. Northern Denmark. Mr. Richard Genève from Aigle de Sauvignac, France. Mr. Peter Russell from the University of Sunderland. Professor Sander Lap from Breda University of Applied Science, the Netherlands. Professor Jeff Murray from Breda University of Applied Science, the Netherlands. Before we start, let's welcome our President, Pauline, to give us an opening remark.
So, ladies and gentlemen, and it's my honor and my pleasure to be able to host these sections. And I think before we started, even the Master of Ceremony has already introduced the guests. But I think it would be nice for each one of them to spend about 1 or 2 minutes to briefly introduce their university and or their company or the institution they are representing. And so we will have more background about all our guests from the Eurocrete. Okay. So maybe we can start from Jeff, would you like to start first?
Yes. Do I need to put the microphone on? Or?
Yes, sure. And please excuse me for, I would all call you by first name. If you don't mind, you can call me Bro as well.
Yes, Bro. That's okay, my name is Jeff Barré. I'm lecturing at the Breda University of Applied Sciences in the Netherlands, which is one of the smallest countries in Europe, only to be, how do you say that? Overdone by Denmark, but we'll hear about that later. We teach about 7,000 students, of which we have 4,800 students in the tourism and hospitality area. My background is industrial design, and I am lecturing in concepting, imagineering, innovation, and design in hotel management, facility management, and master in engineering. I leave the rest of the information on my university to my colleague, Mr. Lub, because otherwise he doesn't have anything to say. So that's for about now about our university. Thank you.
Thank you. I also have to express that Jeff just won a reward and was sponsored by our university last year at the Eurocrete. And that's the best practice among the best cooperation between the industry and academia. So we really appreciate that, and we congratulate him and really appreciate he spent the effort to come actually visit our university. Okay. And next one, Rob, please.
Good morning, my name is Ralph Burke, obviously, and I'm assistant at school head of hospitality in the Technological University Dublin. It's the most recent university in Ireland. We just actually turned Technological University from the 1st of January. Before that, we were known as Dublin Institute of Technology. We're now the largest higher education institution in Ireland, 28,000 students. We have 4 different faculties. My own faculty, Hospitality Tourism, is within the broader Arts and Tourism structure. In our own school, we have 1,400 students, and then we're quite international. We also have 350 students in Hainan province, in Hainan University. So I'm out here in this region a lot. Also because I have so little to do on a daily basis, I'm joking, but I'm also the president of the European Federation of the largest hospitality, tourism, events, educators organization in the world, which is International CRE, and our federation is Eurocre, and all of the colleagues that you see here from Europe, we are actually all members of Eurocre, and we are all involved in the board of management of this organization. So we're all very delighted to be here. Pearl invited us, and we would like to thank her for her hospitality and looking after us so well and for hosting us. It's been an absolutely fantastic experience, and there's been quite a number of people over the weekend have given up the weekend to show us around various Buddha temples and different sites, and actually the Dutch learned more about the history than they knew before this. So I think it's been a very, very educational experience for us, and we're absolutely delighted to be here. And in fact, we're also looking forward to be back here in this campus next year when the APAC CRE conference is hosted here. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pearl, and thank you very much for having us here. Oh, maybe not, have a loud voice. I hope you can hear me now. As mentioned, I'm from University College of Northern Denmark, and as Jeff mentioned, we overdo them in smallness, apparently. We are one of the smallest countries in Europe, where the Dutch have a population of 17 million people. We are only 5.2 million. But even though we are a very small country, I actually come from one of the larger universities of applied science in Denmark. University College of Northern Denmark, as mentioned. At our university, we have 21 programs in English. So basically, a majority of our programs are taught both in English and in Danish. We have a School of Business, that's where the hospitality programs are based as well. We focus on education and social studies. We have health programs as well. And we have a larger technology school at our university. Basically, sustainability is a huge focus that we have, and I know that the Dutch focus on that as well. And I'm very, very proud actually to say that UCN is the first official institution in Denmark to sign up for the Global Sustainable Development Goals from the UN. So we are very happy to be an official partner and trying to achieve these goals in the future. Size-wise, we have 9,800 students and a faculty around 1,000 lecturers. But I hope at one point that you will be able to come to Denmark and Aalborg and experience our university. But definitely I will be back next year again when we host the APAC CRE conference. So I'm looking forward to interact with all of you again at one point. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Richard Gignoux. I'm the director of École de Savignac. Savignac is located in France. France is one of the biggest territory of Western Europe and one of the biggest population as well, with more than 70 million of inhabitants. École de Savignac is one of the leaders in France in hospitality management. We train about 400 students every year, and we also train executives, general managers. We train maybe 150 managers every year. So this is one of our specialty. We also have 2 schools in Africa, one in Senegal and one in Ivory Coast, and we are still in the process of developing our brand in Africa, which is for us a big potential, a big continent that is very, very interesting for European countries to develop. What can I say about my background? I'm coming from luxury hotels. I was a general manager in a 5-star hotel for 20 years, and then I opened my own business. And 14 years ago, I switched to education. So I the director of the school for the last 14 years. But I was also president of Eurocre in between 2012 and 2014. And I do some teaching as well. My specialty is geopolitics and every international issues like international negotiation, international management, etc. I would like to thank you for the nice welcome. I can see that you have already the hospitality in your hearts. Your country is really fascinating. I thought that French people were the people that were most focused on food. Now I know this is the Taiwanese. You are number one, and I think I will win a lot of enthusiasm with you, and maybe 5 or 6 kilos as well, because of all these nice restaurants that I experienced. So thank you very much for the students as well that welcomed us very, very friendly. And thank you, Pearl, Shirley, and all the staff. It was just fantastic to be here with you. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm Xander Up. I'm a professor of hospitality management and experience design at Breda University of Applied Sciences. I also hold positions as visiting fellow at the Free University of Amsterdam, School of Business and Economics, and at Nyenrode Business University, which runs a very successful MBA program, a beautiful castle in the middle of the country. So we mentioned a little bit about the Netherlands, and it's a very happy country. I think that's what Jeff referred to. We're only losing out in happiness to Denmark and Finland. So that's our only unhappy part. But I think we've resolved it by working together with people from Denmark and Finland. And we also score really high on indexes around innovation and competitiveness in the world, usually top 3 or top 5. So it's a good country to be in, but at the same time, coming to Taiwan has also been an amazing experience for me. A little bit more about our school. We're actually the largest hospitality and tourism program in the world. We have about 4,800 students in a specialized hospitality and tourism program and a leisure program as well. And we also have 2 academies that focus on areas that are very related to hospitality, tourism and leisure. So that's digital entertainment and built environment and logistics. And all of those specialist knowledge come together in 3 research teams that we run. We're not just a teaching and very intensive university, but also a research intensive university. And we focus on 3 areas, which are placemaking and shaping destinations. It is people and goods on the move, and the theme that I'm one of the chair professors of, designing, measuring, and managing experiences. And that has been a theme and a topic in our field as well. Just a quick overview of my background. I have a long history in academia. I started teaching probably in '95. My first job was in New Zealand at Auckland University in the Department of Psychology. I'm a psychologist originally. And I've worked at Hotel School The Hague. I've worked at Saxion Hotel School, which is another school in Holland. And now I'm working at the 3rd hotel school in the Netherlands. But I've also worked in the tourism industry, working for several tour operators. I've worked in theater industry for Disney Theatrical, and I've done some work in the catering and events industry as well. I think we've said a lot already, so I better pass on.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Peter Russell, and I'm from the company Russell Partnership Technology. To give you a little bit of an overview of that, we're based in England, in the United Kingdom, currently part of Europe, so hopefully I still will be allowed to be part of Eurocre when we leave. So at the moment that's not making us very happy. Well, the panel seems to talk about happiness.
We must talk about this.
Hopefully they'll still all be friends with me. As a company, we do a number of things. We're a collection of 3 businesses. We work in food, consultancy and strategy, and we work with education within hospitality. On the consultancy side, we work doing major events, so we work on things like the Olympics, on how you deliver food for so many people in a relatively short period of time. On the technology side, which is the area I focus on, we create, develop and manage technology learning programs to teach students and industry about the complexities of hotel and hospitality management. To give a little history of that, in 1994, as a company, we created the world's first hotel simulation program, and that's how we use games and online learning to be able to learn more about the industry that we all want to work in or do work in. We'll talk a bit more about that when we get to the panel session. It's an area I'm passionate about. To give you a little bit of background about me, my first job when I graduated was as a bellboy in a hotel. So I started from the bottom, then worked my way into managing events within hotels, and then moved into education and training. And again, as everyone on the panel has said, the welcome we've received in Taiwan has been exceptional. So thank you all, and we're all looking forward to coming back very soon. So thank you, and looking forward to the time together.
I want to have a little quiz to make sure all the audience knows who our presenter here are. The first question is, okay, who are the president of Eurogroup? The current president of Eurogroup. Who got the answer? Okay, tell me which one. Pick one. Which one? Speak out. Ralph. Yes, correct. I'll give you the present later. Okay. Be sure to come to me for present. Okay. Who set up the first simulation program in the world? Who owns the company and set up the first simulation program in the world? Peter. Would you please raise your hand so I can see? Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Peter Russell, yeah. He has the simulation program, which is amazing. And I hope, in the future you will all have a chance to try it out. Okay. Then, which is the happiest country in the world? The top 3 countries in the world, according to their survey. Okay.
Denmark.
Denmark. And then, where else? I say top 3. So, in addition to Denmark, where else?
Netherlands.
Pardon?
Netherlands.
Netherlands. And one more? Finland. Pardon? Finland. England. No. Oh, Finland. Okay. Okay, not England. Okay. Because they are about to kick off from the European Union, so. Okay, and who can tell me about the background of Richard? How much you know about Richard? Where did he used to work? He start working at what kind of hotel?
Former president of Eurocrete.
Yeah, he was the former president of Eurocrete. Great. And what else? His industrial experience? Did he work in a budget hotel, or youth hostel, or luxury hotel? Guess what?
5-star hotel for 20 years.
Okay, is that correct, Richard?
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, I work in Palace Hotels in London and Paris, so the very best hotels of Europe, the first-rank hotels. It was a really honor for me to welcome all these actors, show business and politicians. Very special clientele.
Okay, so you can see actually all the presenters, they are not only, working or teaching in the industry, but they also have abundant experience in the past. So that would make it so special. Okay, so I think that's great. And in addition to that, how many countries, How many countries we are representing on this stage? Give me the number. 1, 2, 3. Who is the quickest one? Give me a number. How many countries we are representing? 1, 2, 3. Raise your hand, please. 1, 2, 3. Okay, teacher. 6. 6. Is that correct? So how many countries? When you say 6, you are counting. Yes, definitely. So let's count this Taiwan, right? Republic of China, and then we have Jeff from Netherlands and Ralph from Ireland, right? And Germany. And Andrew from Denmark, right?
I'm sorry,
and then Richard. And then he's representing Spanish, Spanish and French, and okay, and Thunder is. You only have what?
I was born in Africa, but
so born in Africa and work in New Zealand, different, so many different places, and Peter. Okay, great. So such a great variety here. So it's great. So that's why we are going to talk about enhancing global impacts in the hospitality industry. I think actually we have videotaped it, and also some of the fences are, following the Facebook as well. So, and okay, I think in the industry, as dynamic and diverse as hospitality, I think educators must take a close look at the new trends and changes in the industry to tailor our programs, to ensure all the programs are designed to equip our graduate students or the undergraduate students with the relevant knowledge that will help them advance their career. What we care is about what the students in their future, because for some of them, this might be their last degree, right? But then once you graduate from NCU, might have a career for another 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, I don't know. Because it was told the life expectancy in your age probably would be 130. For us right now it's 86 in Taiwan. But I don't know, in your generation, apparently the life expectancy is longer and longer. And last time, a couple of weeks ago, we have Professor Perry Hobson visiting our university and talk about the influence of innovation technology and the digital advantage on hospitality. And on Friday, I think some of our presenters, they also talk something about simulation technology or design thinking and a workshop, which is also very popular. So today we were going to cover several issues, and the way how we're going to run it is I think I would have each one of them host a topic or host a short question. And then each question will last for 8 minutes. So altogether we would have 6 people here, so it will last for 48 minutes. And then in the end of it, we will come back to have a Q&A. Okay, so I think we'll cover up basically most of the issues now. So the first one would be, when we talk about all the new technologies and with all the modern technology, you can see all the videos on YouTube, all the commercial, they were all predicting in the future, maybe the robbers is going to, and the artificial intelligence is going to dominate the future. So what's the next? What does the future of the hospitality or education look like? How should we prepare for our students to face those challenges? So anyone would like to address this question?
I think I would like to have an input on that one. Thank you very much, Phil. Yes. I think the best answer I could get or give when I would say that is correct would be, I have no idea. But that will make a very bad panel. I might have some perspective to what would happen, but basically what I'm saying that is we don't know where the end goal is. And I suppose that things are changing all the time. Life expectancies are longer and longer, we live longer, so basically we need to restructure our lives and the way we think education and life development in total. So I think basically it's more important to focus on the process than the end goals, because there is no end. That changes all the time. However, the way we define the goals and the achievements that we would like is more important. And for those of you who attended the design thinking workshop and my workshop on or lecture on business modeling, I think you learned that it's much more vital to understand the process and the things that we're doing in order to figure out which direction we then will go in, right? One thing that we have set up is that we learn better together. And of course that this is also the essence of what we're doing here. That is that when we meet with fellow colleagues from all over the world, we become better at what we do because we start to see things from another perspective. And for those of you who have been traveling a lot, you might actually know that when you're traveling, when you find yourself in a, I wouldn't call it a strange environment, sometimes it is, especially in Holland, but a foreign environment, you start to learn a lot about yourself and who you are. And I think that's basic, that's the core of what you need to focus on. That is to figure out what is it that I am before I can figure out in which direction I want to go. And we learn that by giving inputs from external environments and from others. So basically what I'm saying is that one focus that we have here, and which we are going to have in the future aspect of hospitality and hospitality education, that's basically internationalization. So more interaction. I think at one point when I started working for UCN, and I started to have a lot of travel activities and international activities, was basically we need to figure out how we, where we are placed in the world. So we tried to figure out what are the benchmark for hospitality education. And we never got to that point where we had a result on that, because I think we had the wrong perspective of doing these things. Because it's much more important to have different understandings and different perspectives to what or how we interpret hospitality, for example. And that's where we become stronger. So it's not about going the same direction, it's about enhancing the different directions and multiple directions that we have, and then learn from each other and steal each other's principle from that, because that's what keeps us developing. So when I learn more about Taiwanese hospitality, I learn much more about how we can develop hospitable principles in a Danish context. It's not all things, I cannot do a copy-paste of it, but I can steal the principles of what you're doing and then try to link it into my own context. And this is what Richard is saying as well, because basically France is the gastronomic capital of the world, right? But suddenly, just for the past 2 days, we learn about the food-loving culture of Taiwanese people. And suddenly that provides an entirely new perspective that develops our mind and sense of understanding as well. So basically we came to internationalization, globalization is very, very important. But why? One thing is, of course, we learn from each other, but when you look at it, why is it that we need to have an international mindset? Is that because we need to travel more, or is it because we need to develop, as I said, I think it's the last one based on that, but in which way should we then do it? How should we set this up? Can we all travel as well? Because if we are all away from home, what is home then? As I mentioned earlier, we talked about benchmark and trying to compare each other on equal basis, and that doesn't work. When I first worked with internationalization, I thought of mobilization. So trying to get my students out in the world, in the real world, because that was internationalization. But we actually start to forget about that again, because right now we have around 20% mobility from our students. So 20% of all our students are traveling. And I don't think that it is our university who have taught them to have an international mindset. I think they were brought up with an international mindset, and that's the reason why they're traveling. So these are the people that we don't have to encourage more, because they will already do it. However, what we start to focus on right now at UCN is internationalization at home. So giving the 80% of students who doesn't travel and basically a global mindset, an international mindset, and teach them how important that is in order for them to collect new or adapt new knowledge to the context that they're working in. So it's the 80% that we're focusing on. However, there's also a generation perspective into this, because I actually looked at our staff mobility this morning just to have the numbers. When it's 20% of our students who are traveling, it's actually only 8% of our lecturers and faculty who are traveling. So I think that's a quite interesting comparison, that the younger generation are per se and by nature much more international minded, because that's what you've been brought up with. And I do believe a lot of you here in the room today have a wish for or an understanding of some perspective of globalization and internationalization, and what that means for you, also from a cultural perspective. If you look at it, I think what it is that we need to focus on is basically the skill sets that we need in a globalized context. And when I look at the skill set today, I think complex problem solving is one of the most important aspects that you need. It's the need to be a critical thinker, especially in these days with a lot of fake news around. Validity of the sources that we use for knowledge are very, very important. It's about being creative and new thinking and open-minded. It's about people's management, and last but not least, it's about being able to coordinate with others in different contexts. And I think that would be my sort of sum up, but I don't know what the rest of the panel have of input to this. This is my perspective to it, but I would like to discuss this as well and try to expand my own mindset on these things.
I would like to extend it a little bit, but I think you are running out of time. Give me a sign. Okay. So I think that's very good, because you talk about the process. I think maybe this moment will be a very important process of your life, right? Because then now you get to so many different ideas from so many different countries. I think today probably will have a major impact in your life, and maybe will change your future career path as well. Okay, well, we can get back to that later. And the second question we'd like to ask is, innovation will be critical for hospitality businessmen to remain relevant and cater to the different profile, needs, and expectations of increasingly diverse range of travelers. So how could the hospitality educator or entrepreneur, like some of you, can keep innovating their programs or business? I wonder, do you have any tips you want to share? Jeff, take it.
If I may, thank you, Pearl. I would like to attach my remark to the remark that Anders just made about the 8% of professors that are actually traveling. I think that we need flexibility. It's not on. Yes, now it is. I was just ahead of you. Is better? Yeah? So I'd like to relate to Anders' remark on the 8%. We need flexibility, and I think that the flexibility needs to be role modeled by professors. Why do we design a curriculum only for students? Why don't we design a curriculum for students and professors to learn together? I think that is a very important move forwards if we want to be able to answer to all those new needs that we can see in the future in hospitality. So that's one of the topics that I think we should bite into. But besides that, I think that to be able to have graduates that can conquer the world, we need them to, and I'm also related a little bit to Anders' previous remarks, we need them to empathize with that traveler. We need them to understand that traveler. all of us, we need to understand other people. And I think that traveling is a good example for that, like being in other cultures. I think that after my visit to Taiwan, my first visit to Taiwan, I understand Taiwan just a little bit better. Still a lot of mysteries, a lot of symbols that I don't get, but I am slowly getting into that. And that makes it easier for me to empathize. And that also makes it possible for me to customize. And customization is an old word that already was there in the 70s and 80s. But I think that we now have a new meaning for customization that relates to interaction. So we need to customize via understanding. So we need to help our travelers to create their own experiences. So we are becoming facilitators of hospitality instead of the boss of hospitality. And we need to educate for that too. So we have our customer understanding or guest understanding skills, but the second part is the being able to cooperate. Co-creation is the magic word. I think that we should also educate for co-creation. How do you facilitate co-creation? How do you make people co-owner and co-responsible of that hospitality experience that they go through? Think of the Burning Man. I don't know if you know the Burning Man event, where you have about 50,000 people in the desert hosting each other. That is the modern way of thinking. Airbnb, hosting each other, also reviewing each other. So co-creation and cross-linking. Anders also said something about that. Cross-linking, stealing from other industries. What can we learn from the car industry? What can we learn from the from other services industries, from banking, insurances, etc. I think that we should also take our focus there. And then last but not least, I think individual skills. I think that students and professors, all alike, and the industry, especially the industry, because allow me here to be a bit critical. I think that a large part of our industry thinks in very traditional lines, and we can see that there is new innovations coming up that we need to adapt and accommodate to if we want to stay competitive. We need, and now I'm going to. Besides flexibility, I already mentioned it, and creativity that has already been mentioned, and I hardly dare to say, but let's not record this, let's not talk to each other about this, but I think that we should establish better bad habits. We should become better at bad habits. We should become better at, for instance, procrastination. Because procrastination is something that stands really opposite to the first idea counts. We should get rid of the first idea. We should go beyond the first idea. We should postpone till the deadline. And that is something that is so counterintuitive in hospitality that I'm only whispering this. But still, I believe that we should do that. So 3 qualities that we should work on: flexibility, curiosity and creativity, and bad habits. Laziness is another one. And for instance, copying from each other, and I can go on about that. But some bad habits that we don't seem to appreciate enough. So for that reason, I would like to suggest, Pearl, that you introduce something new into your curriculum to make that work. We have already introduced it in Breda University of Applied Sciences. Why don't you hand out an annual Best Failure Award at Ankut? I would say that if you are the university in Taiwan that hands out the Best Failure Award, I would say that it's such a bold move that people will talk about this. I'm curious what the other panel members would think about this.
Great, very creative, thank you.
So how many times have you won the Failure Award today?
Talking about my life.
Maybe we should change our reward instead of the best practice from the industry and the academic. Maybe we should sponsor a reward, say the worst practice. Like that.
But I think, Jeff, you've got a point there where failure is something that you can learn a lot from. And I think that both speakers have actually addressed one really important topic, is that the world is becoming more and more complex. As we grow more global, we have to understand all the different perspectives and bring those together. And our mind is also limited. I mean, we're afraid of change. Everyone is afraid of change. If you're a student, if you're a teacher, if you're somebody in industry, change is scary. You can see that in all organizations. It's always a battle between innovation and making sure that everything runs smoothly and processes are according to rule. And that conflict is something that we're not going to get rid of very easily. So those bad habits, I think, are really important, because those are slowly grinding away at that complexity that we're seeing there. I'm actually involved in some research at the moment, both in the Netherlands and European research, where we look at what are the future skills that we need. And apart from the four 21st century skills that were mentioned, creativity, critical thinking, communication and collaboration, there's another set of basic skills that are becoming more important in education and also in industry, I think, based on the research results we have over there. One is the soft skills, which is very much related also to the 21st century skills. I think one is sustainability skills, because that is our major challenge for the future. How are we going to create a future that is sustainable for the next generations? And that is not just about growth, and perhaps it's even the opposite of growth in some cases. But we need to understand more about how we make that possible together, because at this point we're racing to the edge, I think. And finally, a set of skills that we see becoming more and more important, and I'm sure that some of us know even more about that, is technology skills. How do we deal with technology? How do we make sense of what role technology plays in our lives? What new technologies are going to come up, and how do we need to deal with that? And that's something that I think that we have a responsibility in addressing that also in our curriculum.
I think the student who is in charge of the timing she's totally confused. Each one holds the question has 8 minutes. So sometimes he can pass, so other can join him, but he still owns those 8 minutes. So, and please, in like 3 minutes, just hold it still, because don't expect we would all see it. Because when we are talking, we might not, because sometimes we just like, click, and then down, we say, what is that? So just don't worry, just hold it still over there, so we see, oh, 3 minutes. So we know how to time, because we are all lecturer. Once we start talking, we can talk for 3 hours, right? And so that's why, don't worry, just leave it there. Let us know how many minutes they got, okay? So,
but I think we can take this opportunity to maybe do what Jeff was preaching about making mistakes, because I totally agree with Jeff on that. I teach creative new thinking as well, and every time we fail, we celebrate our mistakes, and we actually stand up with our hands in the air, and then we yell as loud as we can, yes, we made a mistake! So I think this is what we're doing. We're celebrating, because every single time we do a mistake, we are learning, and then we're progressing.
Yeah. I agree, because last time they want to let go of the faculty. And I said, no, I just spent over 1 million NT on her, or on him, and very expensive, lesson we learned. So I will keep him, or keep her, to say no, because then I want to get something from him or from her. I'm not going to waste this 1 million NT on this person, no. Based on the mistake we made, we want to learn something and then recover from it. So I think that's good. Okay, so move on to how about, if we want to comment on the influence of new technology. I think, Peter, probably you are the best person to answer this, because you are the one still in the industry and keep inventing something new.
Yes, certainly. Very happy to comment on that. I think technology is obviously really important. I think everybody who's talked so far in some way has mentioned technology. And that really tells us a number of things. I think the main thing there being that technology a few years ago was seen as a completely separate area, whereas now technology is everywhere, all the time. So we can't say, okay, well now we're going to look at technology. Technology is now automatically a part of what we're doing. So I think that's the first thing to think about. When we think about that in terms of curriculum and learning, it's now an expectation. So students like yourselves and the students of tomorrow will grow up with technology. So students now will have a phone, an iPad, a tablet from a very early age, whereas 10 years ago, further back, say when we were studying, technology was not so prevalent. I think within that, the area where we're involved in terms of gamification for learning will continue. So I think that's a really interesting area for us to look at. The area of sharing. With the internet the way it is now, it's getting harder and harder to control content. So sharing is going to become more and more important, and more learning resources will live and remain online. And that's a great thing, because it means that there's going to be so much content available, so much knowledge for us all to learn, and technology enables all of that to happen. So I think that's really important. I think when we then move into industry, we've got a number of different areas. So we have the areas of, everyone talks a lot at the moment about virtual reality. My belief and our belief as a company is that virtual reality is a really usable resource. It's probably still 5 to 10 years away. At the moment it's at the stage where it's very, very expensive. I'd be more interested in talking about AR, or augmented reality. I think that has more immediate applications for what we can do and how we can deliver technology. We also talk a lot about IoT, which is the Internet of Things. And you can think of that essentially as how can we put Bluetooth or Wi-Fi into anything. So this is, if I'm in a hotel room, can I control what colour my lights are? Can I control when I want the blinds to open in the morning? All these sorts of things. And then we can evolve that through to AI. So if I am a member of a loyalty chain for a particular hotel, maybe the hotel starts to learn what I like. And then I stay in another hotel somewhere else, the other side of the world. The hotel already knows Mr. Russell likes a wake-up call at 7 AM. He likes to have tea rather than coffee with his breakfast. All these sorts of things start to become really useful, and then the guest feels great hospitality through technology, rather than feeling, well, technology is actually removing hospitality. Hospitality was all about human touch, but digital touch is not a problem, provided that we deliver it in a great way. So I think that's really important. And we don't want to fight evolution and evolving these things. If you look at, there's various case studies of businesses who haven't evolved and then they die. Look at things like video rental, DVD rental. These companies are gone. Nokia, they're gone. They try to come back, but they don't happen. Something, a disruptor, somebody like iTunes comes in. Apple come back and steal all of Microsoft, not all of Microsoft's share, but they come and they make a huge impact on the mobile phone industry. And now look where that stands. So fighting innovation is normally a very, very bad thing. You need to make sure that you keep evolving, we keep improving. So I think the main point for me around all of that would be around that conversation around human touch versus digital touch, and how we evolve that within both the education side of things. So how do we continue to improve our curriculum within the university setting to help students learn about using technology within the industry? And then on the industry side, how do we utilize that technology to best effect to continue to deliver great service and great hospitality in the traditional sense for guests, whilst also bringing in that new technology. So I think that's really, really important. So I'd be interested to hear what everyone else on the panel thinks of all those sorts of things, because there's a lot for us to do. And hotels themselves will have to think about changing. Roles may change because people will be using technology more. I think everybody's going to need to learn how to understand and use technology. Infrastructure-wise, hotels are going to need bigger data centers. We're going to need quicker Wi-Fi. And then all the staff and associates within these hotels are going to need to know how we apply it. It won't be a case of saying, oh, I'll get the IT guy. Everyone's going to have to be the IT guy. So I think we've got around 3 minutes left. So I'd like to see what everyone else on the panel thinks. Sandra, I think you might have...
Can I jump in?
Yeah, please.
So, since you're a technology expert, I'll ask you the question.
Fine.
There's two topics I haven't heard you talk about. One is AI, which seems very relevant in relation to human touch and digital touch, and the other one is robotization. And because we're training for the hospitality industry, I'd be curious to know how you see that developing in terms of jobs that are still available for the people that we're training.
Sure, I'm very happy to go on that. I think AI, definitely very, very important. That learning, I think AI will be used in different ways in different contexts. So I think in more budget-style hotels, we'll see more AI, which is guest-facing. So I think the guests will see more of it. You'll see more of a computer screen rather than a person. And I think at the more luxury end of the market, it'll be more hidden. So it'll be utilised to deliver better service, but we'll still have that forward-facing person giving you all of that. So I think that would be the main thing I'd say on AI. And I think that's probably the most important thing. So I'd say, yeah.
Great. And I think we'll move back to the other issues about how to recruit students. I think in Taiwan, most recently, the shortage of students. The shortage of the students is a big issue, and maybe you can share with us, especially like Rod, you said you come 6 times a year to this part of the world. Actually, you have a joint program with Hainan University in China. And I would like to ask, how do you attract international students? And your school have any strategies to help you to recruit those excellent students from all over the world? And how to make your school more internationally recognized?
Thanks, Pearl. There's actually quite a number of aspects to this. And I suppose over the last couple of years, the international higher education scene has changed an awful lot. And I suppose I'll give you a good example. If you look at your neighbor across the water, China, over many years, China's been one of the net exporters of students, really, all over the world. I think between China and India, over 30%, they make up over 30% of all outbound students. However, there's a significant change, not just in China, but all across the world in terms of the focus of global higher education. Because most countries nowadays, they don't want to see their talent go abroad. In fact, they want to get more and more international students come into the country. And it's very few countries actually have achieved this. There's a number of European countries that have net inbound mobility, i.e. more students coming in than there's going out, Germany being one of them. The other country that's actually been quite amazing in that has been Malaysia. If you look at the history of Malaysia, for many years there was almost a level of colonization going on in relation to the United Kingdom, because Malaysia has been exporting the students, but now Malaysia has net inward mobility, so more students are going into Malaysia to study than there's students going out. So I think what we are going to see over the next couple of years, there is an increasing sort of development in relation to transnational education, higher education. Transnational means that is what we do, for instance, that we deliver programs in collaboration with other universities. So if you look across the water in China, you have the collaboration between Nottingham University in Ningbo, Liverpool University, and Jiao Tong University, so they have thousands of students. So that's really what we're looking at is, I suppose, increasingly higher education institutions, if they want to attract students, they need to add value to their own provision, okay? And added value can be through dual degrees or joint awards. That is how you add value. And I suppose for many countries that isn't really possible, because either their own students don't have enough money to go abroad, or don't have money to pay for these kind of programs, and vice versa. Or even if I look at my own students in Ireland, most exchange programs, they need to be reciprocal, i.e. as many students as you take in need to go abroad. That's the only way they work. We have a similar kind of process in Europe. But what we find, for instance, on the European exchange programs, every student wants to come to Dublin, but the problem is my students don't want to go to the other countries. You know, it's not because they don't like them, because Irish students are afraid of going abroad, and so I don't know why that is. But I suppose if you want to attract students internationally, and I think that's for you guys is very important as well, is that you know, you want to go to a place where you know you're going to be looked after, where you're going to get value for money, where you know where your expectations are going to be met. So colleges that want to offer truly international programs and increase internationalization have to build a reputation that they look after the students, that they can add value, that make it very interesting, a very interesting program for students that is obviously delivered through English, like Anna said, 21 programs delivered through English. So that's critically important, that you offer opportunities for other students. Placement opportunities, that's another key aspect, that you offer students placements. For instance, I mean, even from a government point of view, that's also critically important. For instance, if you look at the Republic of Ireland, students that come from abroad, they get a 2-year stay-back visa. So if you graduate from Ireland, from any university in Ireland, you get to stay on for another 2 years to be able to work and use your diploma or your degree in a working environment. So that's, even from a government policy point of view, that's a hugely attractive value proposition, And I suppose many governments around the world have actually been counterproductive in that. For instance, the UK used to have that, they stopped it. The US used to have that, they stopped it. So you get new kind of governments coming in, they get more protective of their own kind of nations, whatever, and that's, I suppose, that's counterproductive in terms of international higher education. But what we personally have found, I suppose, you have to make a start somewhere. But I guess once you kind of start this internationalization process, other institutions become more aware of your own institution, and I guess, for instance, since we have our collaboration with Hainan University, which is one of the top 100 universities in China, other universities have come to us and say, oh, what do you guys do in China? Can we do something similar? So obviously that works. But we also then offer opportunities for students in our campus in China. They can come and study also then in Ireland as part of this process. And we offer progression routes for students, so students can then continue to do a master's perhaps in Ireland, or we also offer opportunities for staff members. They can undertake PhDs or short courses back in Ireland, visiting professorships. So if you talk about internationalization of higher education, there needs to be some value added. It needs to cover every single aspect of what we do in terms of research. Also, I mean, the internationalization of higher education also refers to research. And I suppose an aspect that Anna's mentioned earlier, I think is critically important. If you can't bring international people into your campus, that doesn't mean you can't teach globally. You still, with the modern technology, artificial intelligence, AR, VR, you can bring globalization to you. We can teach our students to be more globally minded. We can, one of our colleagues, Deepa Jha, has started an initiative of a global classroom where he brings people together all across different continents from all over the world in a global classroom, but you're not physically together. You're all, people are tuning in via Skype or other types of technologies, and they sort of collaborate together on that level. So technology then also can be a great helper in the internationalization of higher education. Okay, I think our time is up.
Great, Rob. That's right. Actually, our chief of information, he's also in charge of the information, the library, everything. So he set up the strategy for the university, which we're going to build up a massive online program, and especially we would like to specialize on the Chinese culinary arts first. I think, with one of the strategy we want to build up like, it would be just like the Gulu or what's the other one? Portuguese, in Taiwan, because we're so famous for our cuisine. Now you all witnessed that in the last few years, in the last few days, sorry. And so I think that will be one of the strategies we can use as well. Okay, great, thank you.
Well, if you would like to make one last remark, I think that it's also important to see the profile of a student in a different light. I don't think that we see students as people of like the beginning in their 20s. I think that lifelong learning hits, and that I am now also a student. And we keep on being a student. And I think that universities can benefit big time from that new development. So I wanted to just add that to the conversation.
Thank you. Actually, you know, the FOCAPOLU, they always promote the online program, and one of the, they deliver 4 courses, and one of them is like a luxury, luxury products, and luxury branding and stuff, and that's something, you know, I sent some of our faculty to study on that as well. Because, you know, I keep telling them, if we want to encourage our students to learn, we have to learn ourselves, right? Because we are a living through. If we keep on learning, our students will be willing to learn as well. So I think that's important. Hey, and let's move on to what should we do better? Because I think most of the students here, they belong to the Z generation, right? You're the Z generation, right? I'm the baby boomer. I'm the last bit of the baby boomer. And some of them probably generation X, generation Y, but you are the generation Z. So what should we do to better cater to the needs of generation Z students? Alexander, would you please address that?
So this is where it gets interesting. I can tell you all about generations and Generation Z. I did my PhD topic actually on generations in the workplace. But the interesting thing is that I can tell you what Generation Z needs, but Generation Z is right in front of us. So what are your needs? Can anyone respond to that? What is it you think should be different in education? They didn't expect that one.
Now you're the panel.
We've been talking about teachers and students all being learners and having to work together, so this is your chance. What do we need to do different?
Actually, to be honest, I work with a student union and I offer them 4 different slots for them to sign in, because I would like to know what a student would like to have. You know, what do they expect from the university? What would the university, would they expect the university to do whatever for them in terms of facility, programs, or whatever. So, but only 3 signed up. But it's a pride. So we have to cancel the first slot, but we are still expecting maybe, you know, next when we come back from the APEC and the European Joint Conference, more people will be signed up, because we really would like to listen to them, you know, what are their needs, instead of creating something for them. Because I was very, you know, idea of like, we should design a curriculum for both the faculty and the students. How can we learn together? Because otherwise, you know, we will be using the knowledge before to teach a student now for them to apply to the future. It will be a great danger, because how can we work together to help them to work out something that would help them to create their own future, and then would nourish all the faculty here to come up with something even better for the next groups of students. So, we'll go back to them.
So a little bit of generational theory, huh? Because nobody's giving me an answer here.
They can text you.
Yes. So, if you look...
Before you say that, can I then come with a question?
Yes.
From another generation.
Why?
No, it might actually lead up to what you're going to say right now, but I just want to ask you this, because basically what I hear is saying that you're not the expert anymore.
No.
Isn't that what...
That is the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that are Generation Z are an expert of what Generation Z wants.
Yeah. So we actually don't know that, and that's, when we don't know the goal, how can we then be the experts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you still want me to give some expert...
Yes, please. So, is it because we're not the experts anymore?
So whatever I'm saying now is probably not true anymore, but I'm going to give it a try anyway. So first, let's start. What is a generation? A generation, I've only had 5 minutes left, somebody just told me. So now I'm going to have to keep it brief. My PhD in 3 minutes. A generation is a group of people that were born in a specific period in time and grew up together. And the period of time that is most important in their life for shaping the values that they have is roughly between 16 and 30 years of age. We know that from developmental psychology, but we also know it from neuropsychology, because our brain have a really funny tendency around 25 to 30 years. What they do is, whereas between 10 and 20, you're getting all these impressions in. And the world is confusing, and you're always distracted. There's a lot of distracted people in the room today that are rather looking at their cell phone than listening to what we're saying, which is because they have to deal with all these different inputs in their life. At some point in your life, you're getting to the point where the brain gets a little tired of doing that and is looking for a more efficient way of operating. And what it does what they call the spring cleaning. You know, you clean your house in spring and you clean everything out. The brain does the same thing. And what it does, it creates highways in the brain. So we know when we go to work, we can expect specific kinds of situation. When we hang out with friends, we know how they behave. We can sort of get our brain in an automatic mode. That automatic mode makes it such that whatever new happens may change a little bit on how you interact with that situation, but the amount of changes you can make is reduced after the age of 25 or 30. So what you grow up with and the values and the culture that you grow up with between 16 and 30 is a really important period in your life that will affect how you look at life for the rest of your life. That's why we're so slow to change now, because we're all past 30. I won't tell you how much past 30 I am. So that's one thing. So if you look at the literature on generations, what we're seeing over generations, increased individualization. So whereas in the past we would look at organizations as families that would bring us happiness for the rest of our life, we would have a job for life, we are now looking at a situation where everyone's looking at their own career, and that career is not necessarily in one direction. The younger generations tend to pick up a topic, work on that for a while until they feel they've created a specialist knowledge on that, and they will jump into a different direction. So it's not uncommon to be really successful in one area and then drop it and do something else. We call that boundaryless careers, where there is no boundaries and you can pick anything you do, because that's how you were brought up as a child. You were brought up to believe that whatever you can think of, you can do as long as you put yourself towards it. That's the endless opportunities that were available in that period of time in your life. But at the same time, you grew up with terrorism. You grew up with fast-changing environments, so you also realize that change is necessary. And finally, I think the thing that's really important also for education is that Generation Z and Generation X as well are groups that grew up with don't do it on your own, work with others together. So teamwork has become more important. That's how schools, lower schools like elementary schools are set up, that's how high schools are set up. There's not so much individual performance anymore, but there's much more team performance, at least in Europe, but I think also increasingly over in Asia. That means that when you work with those people in hotel companies, if you're expecting them to do the individual performance, don't be surprised if they find a friend of them that can actually do that work much better, and they exchange some of the work so to become more efficient, because they become super efficient. This is a generation that knows how to deal with 6, 7, 8, 9 different inputs at the same time. So that is different. In terms of travel behavior, what we're seeing is that they are the more independent generation as travelers. We actually had this discussion yesterday as we were seeing buses going to Tainan. Bus travel, collective travel is not such a common thing anymore. I've done a study in Finland, in Rovaniemi, with Santa Claus office, which attracts a lot of Asian visitors these days, even though I don't think you have a Santa Claus. We see increasingly that the buses are not arriving anymore, but a lot of individual Asian travelers are arriving, and they find their own way. They make their own choices in terms of travel. So they become more independent travelers, and they will also look for a different catered experience, which includes a lot of technology as well. Anything else that you want to ask? You have 20 seconds left.
I just had one thing. I think the key word that seems to come out to me from all the things Anna was saying was the word mobility. So it's what we can do in that area, and the question was all around what can we do to better serve students. I think most of us, especially older generations, have a tendency to try and segment and put people in boxes and say this person is this person is that, or that group of people is that. With the new generations coming through, I think we shouldn't be doing that. So to better serve new generation as teachers, I think it's a case of not seeing people as just one big group, and then, like you said, it's the individualization of that.
A niche market of one.
A niche market of one, yes, perfect. So, thank you.
Teamwork. That's why when I travel in Europe and I visit very many different hotel schools, I realize, their facility tend to be like facilitating for the teamwork. So they have round tables, so the students can sit there, work together on a project and stuff. So then I come back and ask our dean of the journal fair how to create an atmosphere, so facilitating them to do more home teamwork instead of in the past we always go home to do our own individual work. Yeah. Okay, last but not the least is, can I invite Richard to answer, like, what should be the motivation for students to have and experience it?
Thank you. My colleagues have already raised this question, but I would like to go deeper with you. And to do that, I will start talking about culture, and more specifically about national culture. Are you all coming from Taiwan here?
No.
So what do we have here? Philippines. And? Vietnam, oh. Yeah, we had some people from Thailand coming with us. Where are you? Okay. So why am I asking that? This is because culture, or national culture, are influencing very much, very deeply. And most of the time, we are not aware that we are under influence. The way you eat, the way you dress, the way you believe, the way you speak. Let's make it simple. The way you think and the way you act is depending of your culture. Let's take an example. In here, Taiwan, and mostly in Asia, you respect very much elderly people. Why? Because you think that these people have a great experience of life and that they can help you to take the right decisions to build the future. When in some Western cultures, not all of them, a old man is a has-been man. He cannot bring anything to future, maybe because he does not understand the new generation, because he cannot bring anything to the reflection. When you go abroad, you are going to face a new culture. This is going to be a shock, big shock sometimes. And you will be a little bit lost, saying, okay, how can I deal with this situation? This is maybe the negative effect, but there are two very positive effects, and this is the reason why you must go abroad and experience some years or months abroad. The first one is that you are going to understand that there are no truths. There are many truths, in fact. And if you start with that, you are going to get more deeper in your own culture. So you are now going to understand why you are acting this way, why you are thinking this way, why do you dress this way, etc., etc., etc. So you're going to do an introspection. Traveling abroad is traveling inside yourself. And this is the best thing that you must do, because you will understand you better, like you better, and like the others better. So you will start thinking global. That does not mean that you will refuse your culture. You will love and love more and more your culture, and your feeling of being part of Taiwan, Vietnam, Thailand will be even stronger. You will not renounce to your culture, but you will be able to understand, respect, and appreciate other cultures. This is very important one. The second one is that because you will have some distance looking to your culture, you are starting to be critical. And Anders already said something about a critical point of view. I believe that we are in Taiwan. We are not in mainland China. People are not asking you to be followers. They are asking you to contribute to the future of your country. You cannot do that if you just follow always the same things. The context, the global context is changing the world, and you must adapt your behavior, your way of thinking to these new conditions. So that will make you critical. And if you are critical, you are also creative. You cannot be creative if you are just a follower. So that are very good reasons to have an experience abroad. I have two daughters. They are, one had her birthday yesterday, so she is just now 19, and the other one is 22. And they asked me, Daddy, should I do some hotel business or should I go to bank business? I said, no matter what you want to do, I don't want you to study in France. No way you will study in France. So one is in Bali, and the other one is in Switzerland at the moment, and then she's going to Spain. I want them to be able to think more globally. Another thing that is very important, and this is another reason to go abroad, is international network. You must be connected to people all over the world. If you stay, let's say that you're coming from a village in Taiwan, maybe some of you are coming from a village, would you think that it would make sense to live all your life in this village? Of course not. You want to see Taipei, you want to see Kaohsiung. So let's do the same in a global, worldwide dimension. You must be connected to people that is coming from different continents, from different countries. They will be the people that will help you to reach your goals, and your goals will be global goals. You cannot stay only in this beautiful, let's say, best cuisine country that is Taiwan. You must accept that the world is very, very large, that the opportunities are international, and that you must have this global dimension. So I heard from some of your teachers that, I'm sure that it is not your case, but that some of the Taiwanese students do not want to go abroad, maybe because they are a little bit stressed about that, but don't be stressed. You will face cultural shocks. I did face many cultural shocks and situations that I found me very stupid because I could not, adapt enough quickly to the new situation. But you, again, win a lot of experience from your failures. So these cultural shocks will be a real experience that will make that the next time you will be totally prepared to deal with this new international situation. I have some time left, 30 seconds. Okay, so thank you very much. No, I want to thank again all the staff, and especially Pearl and Shirley and all the nice students that accompanied us. I learned a lot about culture, and I had a nice experience yesterday with Richard. I'm Richard as well, so the other Richard is an open book, as we say, and that was great to talk with him about your culture. Thank you very much.
Seems like we are almost running out of time, and I would like to take some questions from the floor. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask?
Yes, this is Xing Chen from Recruit. Actually, I got a question for Jeff and Sandra. So from your workshop, you're talking about design thinking. You're talking about how important become a very curious people can contribute to your life. But for me, curiosity cannot be learned. I don't know, curiosity is like a DNA in your body, or is something that actually you can learn. So I was wondering what's your opinion about curiosity. Thank you.
Taking it, or am I taking it?
I'll try to finish.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to compare this to one of my favorite slogans that I've heard, and I don't know who's the source about management. A question about motivating people. Like, how do you motivate your staff? And I think that the good question is, don't demotivate them. Motivation is already there, and in most of the cases people are demotivated by management. I think the same thing goes for curiosity. We are people, we are human. A natural human quality is creativity and curiosity. We are curious about the world. We are curious in our own ways, but don't kill it. Don't let it blossom. So accept that people are distracted. Accept that people have different interests. and also use that in your curriculum. And for instance, make the current day. I have a loud voice, but this is better, isn't it? Yes. Sorry. It's a design flaw, I would say. No, it's not me. So I would say it's a natural quality that you should not hinder, but should accept and stimulate. And I think that education is, in the Netherlands and probably also in Taiwan, way too much organized around industrial processes instead of learning that we need to do today, organizational and individual quality processes. So that's my first answer. Maybe Xander can now score.
You said so much already, but I think the creative and curiosity muscle, they can be trained, but they are present in all of us. And all I was thinking is my own personal experience. I've been trained for a long time as an organizational psychologist. In organizational psychology, everything is about the objective truth and using statistics to provide evidence for that. And after all the training I received, I also noticed that it felt some unease in that process, because yes, there's a lot of evidence out there for what we are doing, but at the same time I was realizing that evidence doesn't bring us necessarily something. Sometimes, because we all have our individual truths, it's good to understand other people's individual truths, and I had to relearn listening to other people and trying to not just listen to what they were saying, but listening to what they were doing, how they were acting, and some of the dilemmas that they were facing. And the core of design, but also I think much of what we're doing in our normal lives, romantic relationships, professional relationships, is about trying to understand each other. I think your passionate plea is exactly about that. It's about creating understanding. And in order to create understanding, you first have to listen and look and see what that other person is doing and try to figure out why are they doing it, what is important to them, what are their dilemmas. And I do, just like Jeff, believe that we have that innate curiosity, but it may have been untrained by our culture or by our profession or professional culture. But I think it actually, when you do that, when you become curious again, you become much more authentic and yourself, because I think we're all curious human beings.
Any other questions?
Thank you for this inspirational discussion, and from what Richard Junyu just taught us, to encourage the Taiwanese students to travel around to see the world. But I've been to the Netherlands, I've been to Germany as well, but the problems I met now is like, even though I've traveled to some places abroad, but I still have no idea what I should do in the future. And I think that's one common problem that all of the students here have, that even though we've been to abroad, but we still have no idea what we should do in the future, even though we're studying in hospitality industry at NKU. So I would like to ask for the suggestions. Any idea for this? Thank you.
Unfortunately, my answer is going to disappoint you in some way, because I didn't actually go to college until I was 28, and prior to that I didn't really know what I was going to do. And even for many years after that, I didn't really know what to do, and probably still don't. So, you know, and as my colleague said, life is a continuous learning process. So, and I think certainly your generation, there is no such thing as a job for life. So, by the time you reach our ages, you will have had many different careers, many different jobs, would have met lots and lots of different people and learned lots of different things, and perhaps hopefully visited lots of different countries and all of that. But even at that, you probably still don't know exactly what you want to do or where you want to be. You know, it's like a continuous learning process, but I think is very often all you can do is really try to broaden your horizon as much as you possibly can, open your mind, and often just look for different opportunities. And really, I suppose the more opportunities you try to create for yourself, other opportunities then will then arise as a result of that. and you just then try to capitalize. And you know, often you kind of have to think strategically, you know, so you try to work and opening up the different opportunities, grasp one of them, and as you're then working away, other opportunities will open up as a result. So.
Can I add one thing to that? The word serendipity, you know serendipity, is one of my favorite words. It is finding something that you're not looking for. So I would say try to become somebody who's looking for something because you don't know, but you're looking, and be ready when the opportunity knocks. I think it's a very successful strategy, and that's what they call serendipity. It's a quality that you need to practice. So find what you're not looking for.
I would like to add something, maybe a more concrete answer. Link your research to the way of life you would like to have, because we are not only workers, we are human beings, and you might be not know already what you want to do professionally speaking, but I'm sure that you know what you do like in life. So link that to a job that could be, you know, convenient with your ideal way of life, and you will find. And another thing is that I believe very much in human beings. Maybe this is my generation. I'm very open to technology, I must say, but I think that human being is the main thing. And maybe also you should think about not only what you like, but what kind of people you are meeting in your life. And this is maybe the part of unknown, because sometimes you just choose a way, you follow a way, because you meet another human being that open new perspective for you. So be very curious with the people you meet, especially in an international context.
I'd like to add one more thing on top of that as well. I think we all like this topic, clearly. I'll be short, Anders, and then let you come in. I would just say yes. When there are opportunities out there, try not to be afraid and take the opportunities that are there in front of you. I think Pamela so far have said the same, but take an opportunity and then look to develop from that point. You're not going to start where you hope to end. So you have to see it as a journey, say yes to those opportunities, and then good things will happen.
I'd like to share my own life experience in relation to that, which is quite interesting actually. I had no idea either what I wanted to do when I was studying. But I had one clear thing that I knew, and that was I know what I didn't want to do, and that was to become a teacher. And the reason for that was because my entire family are teachers. So me and my cousin decided we are not going to become teachers. That's why I studied public administration and social science in my BA, then tourism management in my master's, and then I become a PR manager for Visit Denmark in London. 2 years after, I started as a lecturer at the University College of Northern Denmark. But I see myself doing something that was not my point of departure. So life takes you different ways. I can tell you my cousin today is a associate professor at Washington State University in Seattle. So it's all about the choices you make and where you find yourself, basically. I think Peter's the same thing in your career, right? Phil?
Yeah, exactly the same. Yeah, when I was sitting in your place as students, I didn't study hospitality. I studied to be a film director. Moved a completely different direction on graduating. I did work a little in the field, and then went a very unorthodox, very undefined route to where I am now. So yeah, you never know where you're going to end up, and I think everyone said the same. You know, as long as you're doing something that makes you happy, that you're good at, and with people that you like to work with, then you'll be doing the right thing, and then that will help you to improve, and then you'll probably look back in 10 years when after graduating and think, how did I get here? But you'll be grateful for the journey. Yeah.
75% of people don't end up in the career that they were trained for.
Yeah, anyway, already our generation was a generation, I'm one of the oldest here, as you can see, and I already did 3 jobs. I started as a photographer. I was an advertising photographer, then I switched to hotel management, and now I manage a school, and that will be even more for you. And what you must remember is that every experience that you get must prepare the following one. It's like climbing a mountain, you know, you can put a foot in one part and make kind of, you know, extension. So you can do that. What you must avoid is to jump, because when you jump, you don't have any more link, and you can just, you know, fall. So you must just make a connection in between your first job and the following one, and so forth, and you will build a professional culture and experience, and you will be stronger. So don't worry about that.
You asked a very good question that everybody was so interested in. So I have to add something on it. Follow your heart. I think I will give you some very useful tips. Before you graduate, I would strongly recommend you can go through all the website, you know, where, you know, all different kinds of jobs are available there. So go through that and see what of interest to you, and try to make some appointment with them, right? Actually go to the industry, actually go there and see the environment, and then have the interview, and then you know, is this what you need? Will this be of interest to you? But you don't have to promise for the first job. You can, you know, do some kind of experiment. When I did my master and the PhD, every time I come back for the holidays, I always have this kind of interview games. You know, I want to know, am I still, you know, wanted on the job market? Even though I really don't need a job, but I still do that. And sometimes the interviewer say, "Oh, we like you," and I say, "There's whole line all there. Oh, they are useless now, but we want you. When did you come to work?" I said, "I'm so sorry, but I'm just here to test, you know." And we become friends. I said, "I can help you to do the rest of the interview to help you to find one." So we can become chatting. Instead of one interviewer, now become two interviewers that will help you. But in this way, before you always go to the newspaper to check, right? In our time, 20 or 30 years ago, you rely on the newspaper. But now you can do this on the internet and help yourself to see what criteria does the industry want, and do I actually meet them? You know, this kind of job, would that be of interest to me? Would they be interested in me? What criteria I need to improve? And that would help you to, you know. So sometimes the fate will take you to, I would never expect to be the president of this university in my life, you know, but the fate just take you here. And I don't know what the fate will take me next to, but I'm always open for new challenges. Okay? So just have the open mind and, you know, enjoy your life. There's so much fun ahead of you, you know, great. Okay, what else? Okay, good.
Yes, hello. May I have a question for Mr. Russell? Today we are talking about the technology and the higher education. And I want to say, we also talk about the Generation Z. And for our generation, we are learning and using the internet to learning everything. We get information from all the stuff from internet. And all I want to ask is how we get a good balance between the technology and have the connection with the people, like to learning and getting new knowledge, not only from the technology. Yes, this is my question.
Okay, great question. Certainly a big question. I think it is a massive issue. I think it sort of taps into what we talked about earlier in terms of, yes, we all know we want to use technology to learn, and we know that's important within the classroom, but we know that we need to make sure we don't forget about everything else as well. I think it also links in with how do we know which information is the right information. So with the rise of the internet and the way things are now, we have a lot of information out there, and some of it is fantastic and some of it is wrong. So we also need to be critical, to question all the time. So I think, to give just a short answer, because we could probably talk all day on that point, I think it would be a case of using technology to stimulate discussion, and then not only have that discussion online, but take that offline as well. So when you come together as students, if you've read something online, talk about it. So if you say, I was looking at this over the weekend, what do you think? Because one of your peers, another student, might have a different opinion. And then you can research, discuss, and move forwards from there. So I think those would be the main things. Be critical, and then take things offline, and then continue that conversation. I think that would be the sort of core points that I would say on that point. But good question, thank you.
Can I just add to that? I think one important point here is the whole point of human interaction as well. I think the generations today, I suppose there's no over-reliance on your part, you know, and obviously we all have the telephones and all that, but certainly generations nowadays completely rely, even in terms of human interaction, and all of what you do is on the telephone. And certainly in Ireland, and I think across Europe, we have a huge issue with students and younger students in particular, and their resilience or lack thereof. You know, students don't have any resilience. So, you know, because any solution that you're looking for is available online, but if you encounter real life problems, students are not able to cope with those anymore. And you can only cope with those by being able to communicate face to face with people. And I give you an example, you know, like students and friends, whatever, come up to me and they show me the messages that another friend had sent them. And they'd say to me, Ralph, what does she mean by that? Is she offended or whatever? And it's like, why don't you talk to them? You know, because, you know, today's generation sending messages with 140 characters, you know, how much of your feeling and your own interpretation or whatever of, you know, or eye contact, you know, looking at people, can you put into, you know, communicating via WeChat? You know, I mean, I have 350 students, most of them have my WeChat connection, and so they send me messages, and of course, because of the time difference, I suppose I might be answering the last message at whatever, 11 o'clock at night time or 12 o'clock, and then I obviously turn off the phone and go to sleep, and then I wake up in the morning at 7 and I get lots more messages, and they'd say, oh, Dr. Ralph, did I offend you? You didn't reply to a message for 8 hours. And it's like, well, I was asleep. You know, and you know, there's this whole expectancy there that, you know, like you want instant gratification, but that's not part of human interaction. People do sleep, people do other things as well, other than just being on the phone. People have to eat and things like that. So you cannot replace, you know, a human action by using just technology. So that would be my point of advice. I know it's a very different generation, but you know, particularly the industry we're in, it's the hospitality industry. You cannot provide hospitality without a human interaction. You know, there has to be some kind of level of, you know, face-to-face contact there, but genuine, you know, heartfelt human interaction. That is what people are looking for. And increasingly, you'll find this, particularly, you know, the hotels nowadays, you know, regardless whether they're luxury or trendy lifestyle hotels, but it's all based on human interaction and getting people involved in producing their own experiences, and that's what's critically important. But you cannot fake this, you know, interaction using technology. Yeah. Yeah.
Just a little bit a positive note. You're studying hospitality-related studies. That means that you're people. I can imagine that this becomes even your core quality in the future, because you suffer from the syndrome that Ralph has just described, but less than other people. You might find yourself in a business of helping people to interact again with each other. So you become facilitators of human interaction. And that is actually, I think, a quality that you can really benefit from. I was visiting this Buddha museum, the memorial place, and we got into a cup of tea that was offered by us by a little girl of 11 years old. And she was actually addressing us with a very genuine passion and interest in us. And she was serving us, and she had a little chat with us, and I thought, okay, she's born hospitality material. She is somebody that relates to people. And I think that is one of the qualities that you can be proud of and can actually also exploit in the future. You will be very desperately needed.
future, I hope today's seminar, when you think about in the future, it have to give you a very major impact in your life. Because, you know, how many countries we are from? It's not only 6, 7, 8, because remember Germany and Spanish and was born in Africa, right? It's like that. So I think that's very interesting, and I hope you enjoy today's, you know, our sharing all together. Okay, so you've been a wonderful audience. So shall we give us a big hand as well? And of course, I would like to say again and again to all the, you know, our attendees today and our presenter here. Yes, gift for them. We have gift for them. Oh. Okay.
Thank you all for the fruitful discussion. To express our respect for this event, please welcome President Lin to issue the certificate of appreciation and the gifts.
I won't tell you what the gift is until the very end.
Okay.
I don't want to.
Thank you. Surprise.
Acceptor. Acceptor. You're acceptor. And you gotta give this. This is yours. Take care of somebody. More present for you. For you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you as well. Rob.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yours to explain. See, very software stuff. When you come, we give you the gift. What is that?
T-shirt.
Right? Because we want to move around in Taiwan. It's very hot, so we want to give you the T-shirt. And please take a look at your gift. Now you just put it back home, and the phone there. I think all the students love it, right?
Thank you, President Lin. Now, please welcome everyone to move forward for photography.
Yes. I should borrow one as well.
Goes well with the suit.
Yeah, goes well with the suit.
Yeah.
The suits right there. The white one and the yellow one.
This one is for the cool people. Professional.
Yes. And let's give a big hand to Dr. Chen. I think he's been spending so much time.
Hurrah! Work from her. It's been wonderful.
Also, thanks, Charlie.
Oh, yes.
Very helpful.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we should move on. Where is our lunch?
I think we want to take a picture.
Maybe one picture. Yeah. Yes.
How about the students? Would you like to join us?
Yeah.
How about would you mind to go over here in the center?
Yeah, this is for your
那边有介绍的就买好了，拿去给学校。所以今晚我去冰干嘛去买
Yes. Well, this is supposed to stand up. But then right now, I haven't seen that. Yeah.